Steal my little contact thing.
All right, here we are. It is just about 12 o'clock and we're gonna go ahead and get started. Today is negotiate offers. We've got just a handful more to go before we're done. So negotiating offers, Elyse Riley is our friend here today. Hello. She taught last time too. And I'd say she's really, really good at negotiating.
She's really competitive.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. She's gonna take great care of you guys. These guys are gonna participate. It's gonna be wonderful and awesome. Thank you so much for your time.
Absolutely.
Very much appreciated. And without further ado,
Here we go. Awesome. Thank you very much.
thank you.
Okay, so obviously the last time we had Ignite, that's the last time I taught Ignite. But this was the same class that I taught last time. So negotiating offers. I know that the course overview, you guys have pretty much done all of this up till course 18, right? Okay, great. Our agenda today is gonna be the 3 Ps of negotiation. What is negotiation? The 3 Ps, negotiation tips. We'll recap and do ahas, then your daily success systems. That's normally when you guys like hang out, write your cards and stuff like that or whatever, make some calls.
I'm getting all kinds of texts. Everybody's stuck in traffic, so they're
All
coming.
right, I'll hang tight. I mean, so, because when I teach, I usually go through these pretty quick, which, you know.
So Aaron's stuck in traffic. Sam's coming.
Okay.
Carrie is almost always here, and so is Christina.
Okay, cool.
So
Christina, she may be,
she may have a closing or something like that, or a
Well-
showing or something.
I think she's my showing assistant, and so I know you have that class to teach today, so I'll talk to you about it when it's over. She's not gonna make it. But yeah, no, she's taking care of my, some of my buyers right now. Hello. Just about to get started. And then we have Brandon Winchester online. And I think, and Tammy, Kristen Jackson, and then Tammy, all bold, Tammy. Yeah, I'll wait just a couple more. You said 2 more people are coming, or 1 more?
Sam just walked in, so then
Aaron.
Aaron's on her way. She's
Okay.
stuck in traffic.
Okay, I might catch her up on some stuff.
Yeah.
Whenever she gets here. Tammy says hello. Her name is in all
All
caps.
caps, so you gotta like,
So, I'm like, it's Tammy. Hello, Tammy. Okay, so, negotiating is not something to be avoided or feared. It is an everyday part of life. Does anyone here have kids?
oh, yeah.
It's like negotiating with a terrorist.
I got 5 of them, and
You got 5
it
of
is
them?
like all type A.
I have 2. I have a 3-year-old, and then my daughter will turn 2 in September. So they are in the absolute zone for terrorism right now.
I'll
And-
trade you with the 20-year-old any day.
Yes. Yes, enjoy it. They don't-
20-year-old.
You're probably not wrong. Yeah, no, I'm sure.
Parenting adults is a heck of a lot
It's
harder
so
than
hard.
being 102-year-olds any day of the week.
Because you can't, like, they don't have to listen to you.
And I don't.
That's fair.
And they make awful life choices. You're like,
Oh my God.
dude.
Yeah, I remember when I thought I knew everything, because I did at the time. My parents were so dumb. And I was just like, oh my God, I'm not gonna go with.
They
the
really
guy
don't
doing
think you're
this.
not dumb till about 25. They start coming out of it.
Right. No, I don't know when I came out of the haze, but anyway, I was able to be a homeowner by 27 though, so by myself too. So that was, I did make some decent life choices that led up to that, but they hated that I joined the military. Because they were like, well, that was stupid. And I was like,
Mine too,
yeah, right? Were you in the Army?
Marine Corps.
Marine Corps? You look like you're either Army or Marine Corps. I was like,
I'm
something about the hair.
just got out, yeah,
Just got out. Congratulations, man.
thank you,
Yeah, thanks for doing all that.
Yes.
you as well.
Thanks. So, Army, and then I couldn't get enough of, that life, so I was a deputy for 12 years with the Greene County Sheriff's Office.
Traded in one master for another.
Yeah, I did. Yeah, this is basically,
No,
the
thanks.
United States Army Sheriff's Office. So, but so I learned my negotiation tactics at the Sheriff's Office. So I'm standing, so everyone can see I'm 5'2". You know, when I first wake up in the morning. So I'm 5'2", and I was having to ask people very kindly to please turn around and put your hands behind your back, as if it was their choice. And actually, I ended up figuring out ways to make it seem like, hey, guys, or like, hey, like, so my specialty was DWI enforcement, driving while impaired. So I was a drug recognition expert for the state of Missouri, so I have expert testimony on witness stands, things like that. I used to teach how to give testimony, which actually coincides a lot with negotiation, because you have to be very, very controlled. You have to be, your emotions have got to be in check the entire time. If you answer too quickly, if you let the defense attorney or the prosecuting attorney, whoever the person is that's asking the questions, if you let them get under your skin, they won. And they can just eat at you, and you will look like a fool, and they will do everything they can to make you look like a fool on the stand. So being very reserved, slowing down the tempo. I do it to when people or agents are excited about something and they're on the phone, I'm going to take that information. Everything that's said to me, tone, the tempo in which someone speaks, unless you're Dan Holt, he always just speaks so quickly, anyway, even when he's probably not that excited about anything. But the tempo, that's a big indicator of something. So that's usually if someone's like, okay, like they're excited because you're like, okay, we're gonna get this deal. I'm like, okay, well, you've probably got a lot more room to give me. And I'm the type of person where I want my clients, like if we have an ability to bring it their cash to close lower, that makes me look like a hero. So I'm gonna get referral after referral after referral if I'm saving my clients money. So if I've got an agent on the other line and I can just smell their like commission breath where they just need this closed, they are so desperate to get this closing, I'm like, all right, I represent my people. I know I can get something here. I might see what I can get. Again, like I said, I'm very competitive. I do everything ethically. So keep that in mind.
But you don't know unless you ask, and if they're
But-
showing it, why not ask?
Yeah, you know, if someone's giving you that indication where it's like, hey, let's just get this done. Okay, cool. Well, this is what I need. Okay, let's figure out a way to do this. So again, my background, one of my first driving while impaired arrests was a guy that was 6'5", big old dude. And I was like,
David and Goliath.
I was
right
like,
there, you're like,
do you want to turn around, put your hands behind your back, please? And he did, because the thing is like the uniform presence, that says something in itself. I could have been 4 foot and he probably still would have done it. But I didn't know that at the time. I had to learn that uniform presence actually meant something. You know, for when I had a cop by my Airbnb this morning to pick up a meth bag that was left behind. And so I was like, I'm not gonna throw this away because I have guests checking in. And so I was like, and also there were some other things that were in the backyard that were stolen from my neighbors. So at my Airbnb. So it was Victoria. I was like, girl, what's up? And so I just go and give her a big hug and my neighbors are all like, there's a cop outside. And I'm like, all right, whatever. So, but that's, anyway, side thing. So negotiating with people is also finding out like where they're at. Like if you've got someone like on the phone and you're asking, okay, do you have any offers on the table? Yeah, we've got one and I know I have another one that's coming in. Can you tell me anything about those offers? I don't do that. Because I say, what can you tell me about those offers? So it's just like asking someone, have you had anything to drink tonight? No, I just gave you the opportunity to not tell me the truth. I just gave you the opportunity to give me a different answer that could be, or you're pulling back. If I say, what can you tell me? That gives them,
open-ended.
it's open-ended. I'm not asking for a yes or a no, or what can you tell me? Can you tell me anything about these offers? Not really. Well, what can you tell me about these offers? Well, and I've had people who were like hardcore, no, I can't tell anything. I just continue to try and put those open-ended questions out there. And the more I put those out there to people, eventually I'll get something that I can kind of work with. So negotiation, again, something not to be avoided or feared. Dive into it, lean into it. This career, you have to have that ability to lean into it. Like, hey, my client said this is what they want. I might not totally agree with it. So now I have to negotiate with my client. So negotiation isn't just between agents. It's sometimes it's with our actual clients too.
You click on the monitor first and then the actual clicker.
Okay. Why is this happening? Okay. Do you guys go over this every time?
What'd you ask?
Do you guys go over the Y4C2Ts every time?
No, not every time, no.
Okay, we're not gonna go over it today. Okay. Although it is important, so I'm gonna go back to this just a little bit. The win-win or no deal, that's probably, make sure it is a win-win for everybody. We can't just have it, hey, we can't just have it on our side where we're the only people that are winning. So if you go to, I've been to the closing table a couple times where had I not kind of made it a win-win at the end, you know, I may have had a seller that would have just left the house in total disarray. You know, so we need to make sure that on both ends that it is a win-win. Okay, path of a negotiation, there are two options after an offer is presented. Option one, offer, accepted, close. And then option two, which is actually what's going to happen, most likely. You have an offer, you counter, rejected, all these other things can come in the way. Negotiating, hopefully it gets accepted and then you get to closing. But you still have more negotiations along the way. Sometimes you have to change a closing date. Sometimes you have to, once you get into the inspection period, that's usually when you have to really ramp up your negotiation skills. I don't really think negotiation, I think communication is how you get offers accepted. I think strong communication, if you just write up an offer and send it in an email and I don't get a follow-up text or I don't get a follow-up phone call, I mean, I don't think you wanted that bad. So if you're one of 3 offers, you may have the most money, but you haven't called or talked to me or had any discussion. If I
So
have to
when
come to
you
you.
expect a follow-up phone call, what do you expect to be said, or what do you say as a follow-up phone call to
Yeah.
someone else that you're putting in an offer with?
So I call the agent and I say, hey, I just sent you an offer. First of all, I already set the standard
Because you
before.
called them before you sent the offer.
Before I
more
set the
than
offer,
likely.
because I don't want to waste my time and they're already countering another one, you know? So when I make that first phone call, the first phone call, what that looks like is, hey, do you have anything on the table right now? And that's, again, I don't say if you have any offers. I leave it more open-ended than that. Say, do you have anything on the table? Do you have, well, we've had 2 showings and one of the showings was a second showing. So we had one yesterday, they came back today, and then we had a new showing today. That's what they have on the table. So sometimes they'll divulge that information. Okay, well, we want to write an offer, but I want to make sure this is something that's going to be super easy for your seller to just nod their head and say yes to. So, you know, I saw that you had Meridian Title is the title company that you want to close at. Who's your closer there? You know, if they don't have that information on the remarks, who is your closing agent there? I'm like, okay, let's talk about date. I don't want to just throw a date out there. When is the best date for your seller? My buyer can make it work, as long as they can. But I also tell my buyer, you know, if money is the most important thing, we need to have some other ways to give concessions. And that might be, we're at the mercy of whatever their closing date is. So I've had people where I'm like, they need a 60-day closing. And I know that sucks for my client because you're under contract and I don't like extended contracts. The shorter that they are, the less likely there's anything to get in the way for a fall through. So it's in everyone's best interest to keep it short, right? We want to make sure that that's for the lender, that's for, you know, they don't do something stupid in the meantime and they pull new credit doing something. But if the seller is like, I need 60 days, nobody else is giving me 60 days, everything is 30 to 40 days, and the seller really needs 60
At that
days.
time, would you suggest to close at 30 days and then they rent it back?
No,
from
I would
them?
give them what they want, especially in a multiple offer situation. I would give them what they want. I don't want to muddy the waters by having a rental situation because that actually makes it pretty tricky. So now we have to have rental insurance. We have to make sure, like, my client is now responsible for, you know, who's got the utilities on at this point. Does my client take over that, or does the new tenant / homeowner, do they keep that? They are super comfortable in their home and now they know that they don't have to own it. So those repairs aren't really on them, right? Right. So muddies the waters, keep it clean, give them 60-day closing. My client needs a place to stay. I'm like, shack up with a friend. Do you like your mom? Go stay in her basement. They don't have to like it, but if they really like the home, they don't always have to like some of the situations. Those are some of the concessions that we give. If that means that now we don't have to go over what they're allowed to spend. So if they're allowed to spend $210,000, now we don't have to go up to 215 trying to make that work because we're gonna give them that 60-day closing. So that $5,000 difference might mean all the world to the seller. So, and then of course we get into things like the actual inspection. The inspection is where, that's where, like, if you know how to negotiate, that's when your talent's going to come out. Because you also have to negotiate the expectations at this point in time. But when do you set the expectation with your client? Well, like at what stage with you have a buyer's relationship, what stage do you set the expectations with your client?
At the console.
Before, yes, before at the consult, before any of it happens, before you even go and show them the first house. What is the expectation at the inspection?
What they say yesterday, Aaron, the five things that he looks at, the roof,
HVAC,
Foundation.
foundation,
I couldn't remember the other two.
And
Cooling and
electrical.
roof.
heating and, was it heating? No, that's
Plumbing
HVAC.
and
And roof.
electrical.
Yeah,
Plumbing
So-
and electrical, that's
So I
it.
always call it, it's like the house trifecta, what's going on with the roof,
Right.
what's in the walls, and when I say the walls, electrical HVAC system, and then what's in the crawl space. That means foundation, mildew, mold, termites.
He said the big five. The big five is what he had called it.
Yeah. Who was the teacher yesterday?
Josh.
Keats, yeah.
Uh-huh.
Keats. I would never tell him to his face that I like him. He's a good agent. I'm actually, so I'm under contract with him ×2 right now, and both of them have been like, he's really great to work with. You want to talk about someone who, like, all cards on the table, does not bullshit.
That's what he
Easy.
said.
Easy guy. So he'll just tell you.
He's
He's
very
like,
black and white.
yeah, he's like, do you want it? This is what we need. You know, and if he's in the position, especially as the seller, he'll come to you and say, this is what it's gonna take to get it. Or, hey, we've got these offers on the table, so you're gonna have to give us your best at this point in time. If he's got a buyer, he's like, what do you need? Just tell me what you need and we'll make it happen. So super easy guy to get along with. In a way, in terms of negotiations, that's lazy. But it's why not do anything else? It's perfect. You don't have to do anything on the front end. He's just like, what do you want? Let me see if I can make it happen. And he goes back and he'll see what he can do to make it happen. So it's flawless in a way. So I like it because, again, I just call him, I'm like, hey, I've got these clients, they want this house. And he's like, cool, this is what it takes. And so we're under contract with him twice right now. So, okay, again, who are you negotiating with? Your clients, the agent on the other side of the transaction, and sometimes the agent on the other side of the transaction's buyer. Because you have to realize that, are you working with someone that's more experienced than you or less experienced than you? They might be more experienced than you, but are they setting expectations with their client? Just because the first four numbers in their license is an older number than yours, doesn't mean that they have more experience.
Oh, yeah, I've come from previous brokerages with agents who have been doing this 30 years and no, don't do.
There's some things, I mean, there's old practices too. There's some old practices that's like,
Do that whiteout all over your contract, do not.
don't do that, don't do that. Yeah. So sometimes they're not setting an expectation. So when I talk to people and I realize that I might not, what my message that I'm trying to portray to the seller is going to definitely get lost in translation, I either have to double down or I break it down Barney style. And I don't come at them like, like I'm trying to play hardball. I just tell them like, this is the reason why. Obviously you have to make sure that it's in your agreement that you can disclose certain things. Sometimes it's a good thing to be able to disclose those things, as long as your client's okay with it. So the common points of our negotiation, obviously the price, which is usually going to be the primary factor of anything that we do, cost of the property, and then your financial time-based, financial or time-based or both. So again, are you dealing with money? Or are you dealing with closing time? Are you taking it as is? Are you taking it as is with an inspection or without? Do they have a previous inspection that they're willing to share? And make sure that when you're going through the inspection, that there are not pages that are missing. And I have had that happen from other agents at any brokerage, it doesn't matter. My brokerage, other brokerages, make sure that what you're getting is you're getting the full story, but don't assume. I've had it happen where we have the seller's disclosure statements and they check mark the box, seller makes no disclosures. But then they did check one box in the disclosure and it said that it needed flood insurance. Wasn't on the MLS, but it was in the seller's disclosure statement. And so were they right or wrong? it would have been a really, really hard sell to sell it with, but it would have been the right thing to do. But I caught it, thankfully, but my clients were still willing to move forward with it. But I remember telling the agent, I was like, man, that's tricky. Cause
Nice.
that's it. I was like,
That's not nice.
you don't play nice. You're not playing nice.
So, right, the board didn't catch that.
They didn't care. It's not that they didn't care, it's just that they were kind of like, oh, that might be something we have to kind of watch out for. And so I always tell people, like, make sure when you're looking through stuff that you are all, because you're the professional they're hiring, right? So those are the things that, like, okay, we know that, like, you're gonna have to have a higher payment, and this is a harder sell for the seller. So that's another position that you guys are taking a little bit more of the higher ground now. Flooding, I get it. Sorry. But you are kind of getting the higher ground in a way, because now you're like, okay, this would have been a hard sell. And if I know that it fell through, or an agent knows that it fell through, it's because I was the agent on the other side, I welcome those phone calls. Feel free to call me. I will be more than happy to tell you why it fell through. So when you see a fall through and you don't know if you're getting the full story from the seller's agent, go get it from the previous buyer's agent. Then that gives you that leg up. Now you have more things to negotiate, or more things on your side that you can negotiate. Okay, so the 3 Ps of negotiation. This is all pretty, I mean, a lot of this is pretty, I'm gonna go into some examples of some of the negotiation tactics that I've used, but a lot of this is gonna be pretty self-explanatory. But again, preparation is the key to building confidence and ensuring a smooth negotiation process. So preparation, again, when you go into a negotiation, you want all of the information before you dive in. If you just dive in head first and you don't know anything, you haven't looked over the seller's disclosure statement, I can have that problem because Christina's showing my properties for me, for my buyers. So Christina's out showing the properties I haven't had eyes on, so I have to be able to trust what she tells me. So she tells me what she's seeing, and then I go in and I look at the seller's disclosure statements, and I also see that the fall through date happened 2 weeks ago. Well, I want that inspection report. If they'll give it to me, if they won't give it to me, then I want information from the inspection report. So that's when I have to start asking those open-ended questions. Move into the negotiation process by presenting the offer. And sometimes that means you have to present it first to your buyer and make sure that they're fully aware of and understand the terms that you want to move forward with. Because sometimes by moving forward with some other terms, they might not understand why it's so important to close a tightened title. It's important to close a tightened title because the paperwork or all the title work has already been done before the fall through. So the fall through happened. Who is the previous title company? Cool, let's use them. Let's go right back to them. Now you just gave the seller's agent a favor and the seller a favor, because now you can probably close sooner because title work's already done. So move both parties closer until you have a full agreement. So make sure that you're positioning it right. A lot of times, again, that's 1 and 3 can kind of coincide here. I personally think, because you're moving both parties closer by being fully prepared and having that upfront conversation with Josh. Hey, what is it gonna take? Do you guys have questions about this? Okay, so preparing to present, know your goal, know your client. That's gonna be where you're learning about your client from the get-go before you even show them any properties. Think ahead, set clear expectations, be informed, obey the laws, know the documents inside and out. That's gonna be your measurement disclosures. That's gonna be, and also, if you think that there might be a discrepancy, look up previous MLS listings. If the square footage doesn't, if you walk in and it says it's 1,300 square feet and you're like, there is no way this is more than 1,000 square feet. And you go to the previous transactions and you see that it actually says, 958 square feet, you're like, well, where did this additional square footage come into play? There wasn't an addition that I saw. And so if they're like, if you go in and they're like, oh, well, we got it from the CRS tax records, and it's in, especially a Christian County address, a lot of times that incorporates the garage. So suddenly you're like, well, there's no way this is 1,300 square feet. Well, they had 300-ish square feet to play with because it's the garage. Obeying the laws, I want to make sure that that is very, very clear. Like, there are some things that you cannot say. Like, so if you walk through a house, and a lot of times when I walk through a house, first thing I look for is termite boreholes. I'm like, hey, looks like dime-sized drill holes in the concrete all the way around the sidewalk as we're walking up. That means this house has been treated for termites. And that's a good thing in Missouri because it's more a matter of if, or it's a more a matter of when, not if it's gonna happen. So because we're a moist, humid environment, and so the termites thrive here. So that's just something we have to deal with. That doesn't mean that I wanna say, hey, you don't have to worry about getting a termite inspection because it's been treated for termites. Well, most warranties only hold up for between a year and 4 years. So if you say that, and that happened 8 years ago, and now the home is infested with termites, I mean, who's liable for that? Did you say it and did they catch it on the Ring camera? So just know. Ask purposeful questions. So I'm gonna read these because they're pretty clear, but provides you with the points that you will negotiate with. A lot of times you can find out from your buyers what is important at the consultation. So I had buyers that called me and they're like, hey, we just got a 30-day notice of, like, we have to get out. Our landlord is remodeling the house and they just gave us 30 days. Well, how soon can I find a house? And I was like, how soon are you available? Because you need to find a house now. Because I was like, here's the link to fill out because we need to get you pre-approved. And I need you all day tomorrow. And right now, basically, because we needed to get them under contract. So as we're walking through the homes, I'm doing our buyer's consultation and I'm making sure that I'm asking them the questions that I need to know about what's important to them as we're going through it. I got the preliminary information through text and then we went and we walked a bunch of homes. But make sure that you want to ask a lot of those questions on the front end too and find out. Because then if there's something where you're like, we don't have any room to give, we're just gonna ask you, this is what we can offer you, is that gonna work? If the answer is no, I don't even know if I'm gonna show the house. Because our time frame was so constricted, basically. So provide insights on where you and your client will have leverage. We've kind of gone over that. Set clear expectations. This allows you to get to know your client and their goal. This helps you learn what will make it a win-win negotiation for both parties. And again, if you keep that win-win mentality on the front of your mind, the majority of the time, you will have a much better time negotiating. And then when you turn around and you have another contract to do with that same seller's agent, or they're the buyer's agent for one of your listings, they will look forward to working with you. Open versus closed. Open-ended questions that have unlimited response options. What additional information should I know? What is important about closing in 30 days? How do you feel about that? Closed-ended, basically yes or no, or one-word answers. Do you have to sell your home by a specific date? Yes. Do you have any other offers? Yes. What is the bottom line price you would consider? Asking. So you can see that like tightens it up. And it's not good for conversation. You know, we're as real estate agents, does everybody know what the DISC assessment is? Okay, so most of us will be high D and high I, especially high I. So you don't want to go in too much of a high D and just give me the bullet points and get off the phone. If you're trying to get your client the home, you need to be able and willing to have that high I personality come out. So be a conversationalist at this point in time. Don't always make it seem like I'm just only here to ask you open-ended questions. Make it a conversation. Because again, you want it to be a pleasant experience for someone to work with you. Because if you have 3 offers or 2 offers that are the exact same, who do you think the agent's going to start pushing? Agents have pull, a lot of pull, especially when they have 2 identical offers, or one is this, but this one will give us this, and there's a little bit of a difference, but all ends up being right around the same of what you want. Well, the agent or a lot of times your seller is going to come to you and say, they come to me and they're just like, well, what do you think? I know I want to get the deal done. So I want to work with the person that seems to be the easiest person to work with at this point in time. And so that's one of the people that you want to be. What would happen if, so these are things that you can ask. I don't typically ask what would happen if, except if I'm saying, all right, what if we write 275? If I write 275, is that going to be worth my time? If they're not giving me anything, like Scott Perryman, total brick wall, not getting anywhere with that guy. And I have tried, man, I have tried. I'm like, tell me something. And he's just like, hey girl, bring me your highest to best. I'm like, I'm trying crying. I'm like, okay, is it, so if I write 275, is it gonna be worth my time? He's like, any offer is a good offer in my eye. I'm like, stop it. I'm like, tell me what I wanna know, but he is just a stone wall I can't get through. Scott Perryman over at Murray. I like him a lot because when, I mean, he's in it to close deals, but he's been doing this for a long time. And his thing was when he doesn't have that room and when his clients haven't check marked, yeah, you can do that. He won't, and he is good. And I'm like, I am usually able to get through even just a little bit and I'll take whatever I can get, but I can't get anything out of that man. Much respect, big one. So, okay, so why is this important to you? Okay, all right, you need to close in 25 days, hold up, that's a lot. Why is that important to you? Okay, why do your clients need that? Because you just wrote me an offer and I don't even have 30 days to get my clients out of this house. So what's the deal here? Well, we just assumed that your folks would want to close sooner rather than later. Like, the client's 86. She wants more time because she doesn't have that much time. So let's give her more time to be comfortable moving out because I don't want her to trip and fall trying to hustle, you know? So like, make sure that you don't, if you are gonna write a short timeline, I appreciate these phone calls that say, hey, listen, don't get shocked. If your seller is like, oh, hell no. Just counter back, I'll work with my clients, we'll see what we can do, but they wanted to give you a short time frame because they don't, like, their situation might be a tight time frame. So then the agent might be, oh, you know, well, we just assumed that maybe it would be better to give you a short time frame. Okay, cool. Have you cleared that with your lender? Or did you just write this? Because if you didn't ask your lender, I'm about to call your lender and say, hey, is this cool? Can we do this? Because the home is vacant and we'd rather close soon. So a couple things to keep in mind. Okay, scenario. This is to work with a partner. And I do think, because you guys should have instructions on what to do for the scenario right here, right? Work with a partner, there's a scenario, read it, list clarifying questions to ask your client, apply your new knowledge of open and closed questions. Do you guys have your scenario in front of you?
I think so. I think it's on 18.6.
I used to not make people do this in class, but actually, I started doing it because it actually does end up helping. Because when are you otherwise going to take the time to read the scenario and script and practice and script? So I have a maps coach and I pay her a lot of money to get mad at me basically. So, and there was one day that she was like, hey, when was the last time you did any script practicing? I was like, I don't know, it's probably been since Bold. And she was like, so who do you think you are? So special and so good at your job that you don't need to script practice.
Thank you.
I was like,
Oh, I guess I'm going to script
I was
practice.
like, obviously, you're feeling a little sassy today, Kathy.
Let me jump back. Do you know?
But she was
why?
right, and one of the things I have done recently is script practice. So it is very important, so if you guys will partner up, I'll give you guys some time to do that, okay? Okay,
Whoever.
there's 4 of you, so it'll be perfect. 2 and 2.
All right, cool.
That's where.
Oh, I got an AI. You cannot use your AI.
What do we?
It's this one, isn't it? Is this what we're doing?
This is the first scenario that's in the negotiation packet.
All right. I'm sorry.
Unless you really want to pull yours up.
You want to be in the scenario?
I guess I'll be whatever. I don't know.
It's so hard.
Okay, so basically, you got a buyer. Are you guys catching it? You got a buyer that wants to offer 155, but it's got evidence of a roof leak listed as is.
And lots of offers or traffic flow, I guess.
Yeah, traffic, but you can have a lot of traffic and no offers.
And no offers, that's right.
So we're trying to figure out,
Clarifying questions to ask.
I didn't bring the packet with me, so.
so we gotta come up with 3 questions basically that we wanna ask. So basically, we wanna ask the seller. Is that correct?
You're representing a single buyer, your client is renting her property. Ooh, that's fun. Like any first-time buyer, she's looking for you to guide.
I
She's not getting the house, sorry.
I know, right?
She wants to go in 20 low. So this is questions to ask the client, so.
was not accepted.
Yeah.
To ask the client or to ask the lister, the listing agent?
That makes
This is,
Client.
yeah, you wanna ask the client
What do you
that.
think the outcome's gonna be?
Oh, I
Okay, so
love
it's
this.
20K.
This is a good
I know.
scenario.
I mean, it has to be a little tough.
Yeah.
So
Is
I
this
am
where we
representing the
go
buyer.
Josh Keats?
So I'm asking
or-
Things to think about, is that right?
So you might have to know, so Josh, again, he is very no bullshit, so, I believe he's even said to his clients before, like, that's just not gonna work.
Yeah.
Which is realistic, and I've said that, I'm like, that's not realistic. So this is where expectations were not properly set. So now you have to make up ground, and that's the most challenging thing to do right now. So I'll give you guys until, it's 12:36, I'll give you until 12:40.
All right, you go.
I'm just-
You're gonna have to ask, what do you think the outcome, because that would be open.
What is it?
Right?
Yes.
What do you really want the
outcome
house?
is going to be if I submit
What is it about the house that want most, right?
Right, so my thought is the question of if we're qualified for this, if we're pre-qualified for this and we actually want this, why are we going in 20,000 low? And then I wanna hear their reasons, and if it's just money, then also what's money? So like, why are we putting a price on your happiness? If you want $175,000 house, why are we going in 20,000 low? If we really want this place, then it's got lots of traffic and it's at 175,000. We're not gonna be able to get this at 20,000 low, not in this market. They still have complaints.
So what would you tell them to, in this market, what would you tell them to do, to offer?
Well, so what I would probably do is go in.
Remember, these are open-ended questions. So applying new, so I would recommend at this point in time, you need to have a conversation. So this is all, I would not recommend any closed questions. I would recommend asking open-ended questions.
So you gotta go back to their expectations, what they're wanting, in my opinion, would that be correct? So you're wanting to go back to their why, what about this house makes you want this house?
Right, it's good.
And start pulling out their why, because you gotta get them closer to this.
Drag it out of them.
Yeah, you gotta figure out how we get them from 155 more, at least closer to 175 with a lot of traffic. It didn't say how long it's been on the market, so let's say it's been on the market 4 days. In this market, you don't have a whole lot of time to decide.
No.
Are you willing to?
What makes you think?
How long?
It's tricky.
So Heidi, so this is
I
like,
am too.
I'm really bad
I
at,
can see that about the two of you.
Oh, yeah, I'm strong.
bad about coming
Chris,
coming
like-
at it like in a soft, like with soft hands, just cause like, it's like, well, if we want the house, this is exactly what has to be done.
Right, because in a way, it's kind of like, you want to be like, hey, dumbass, you
Right.
know, like,
Yes.
so.
Do you want it or not?
I mean, yeah.
I could never do that though. Oh, gosh.
Again,
I'd be scared.
I used to be a cop. I have no problem.
I know.
And in my past life, I wish I was a cop.
Mhm.
If I could go back and undo my world, oh, to be a cop would be
Transition to this would be
hands
like.
down, no questions asked, I'd have done it
Yeah.
in a heartbeat.
Mhm.
I'm not gonna tell you that, absolutely not. I did my time.
Oh,
I'm not-
dealing with
I
people
would
with
not
drugs
go
and
to-
alcohol, like, and domestic, like,
Yeah.
I'm the girl that watches cops and thinks I'm like that cop. Oh
I will tell you that a lot more of copping around is actually just chasing naked people that are high. It's not that great.
Yeah, I know.
And they're dirty and sweaty.
Especially
I was gonna say, that's.
You have to go hands-on.
Oh,
Yeah.
Especially in Missouri.
what years were you on the?
I joined, so I was in the academy and I was at Greene County in two thousand
Yeah, I
and
came up with
ten.
two, so what is your third one?
And
I didn't
then
write down mine, but what do they like?
So then
How
I
long you willing to wait
stayed
for another home?
What's your
until
price on happiness?
2015 full-time. And then I became a reservist until a year ago.
Oh, you were in the reserves for that long?
So reserve, being a reserve deputy, all that means is that I would just get called in, or I would occasionally go in and pull a shift, and I just didn't get paid for it.
That's.
That's basically what it
Did
was.
get paid?
I did not get paid.
Ah,
Yeah,
about to
for
go-
over 7 years, I did not get paid.
no.
But I had the honor of serving.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. So much fun.
Mhm.
Okay, so.
It's a good lever too.
Hmm?
It's a good lever too.
Yeah. It was a good way to stick around my sphere for longer too, you know, so I'm gonna role play this with you. Mhm.
All right, let's go.
Okay, so you're the buyer.
Okay.
Did it say that you live there currently as the tenant?
It just says that yeah, they're renting the current property, so they're already in it
Okay,
and they already like it.
okay, and they wanna buy it.
Mhm.
So, and this is actually not uncommon for someone to live there and say 175. I mean, I wouldn't pay more than 155 for this. It's like, oh, okay, well, let me go show you some 155 homes, girl.
No, it just says that they're currently renting. It doesn't say, I don't know.
Well-
Oh, she's currently renting her present property.
Oh, her.
But the
So
house,
she's renting and needs to buy, so it's not the right home. It's
Okay.
not the same home.
Okay, so that actually makes it a little bit easier than for you at
When is
least.
your lease?
I know,
So,
right?
okay, so role playing, we're doing this. I just said, okay, so it's,
Mhm.
you said, I wanna make an offer on this and I wanna make an offer of 155.
55.
Okay, so 155, you came up with that answer. Where did you get that number from?
I just have been looking at houses and I just feel like it's worth 155.
Okay, so 155, because I've seen a lot of homes, okay, and this one is move-in ready, it doesn't have a ton of repairs. And what we can do is, I think I need to show you some homes that are on the market right now at 155 and what you will see a difference. So let me ask you this. Is the house, so you like this house, you wanted to see it, you wanted to come back and see it, now you want to make an offer on it. What are you willing, so at what price point are you gonna be disappointed at if you don't get the house? Because there's other interests, the comps show that this is appropriately priced.
Well, but when I go into it, I see the leak roof and the evidence of that, and it says as is. So we really don't know in that price range from 155 to 175. I don't know that I'm willing to put 20 more thousand, give them 20 more thousand without knowing.
So what I'm hearing is that, is it the as is that's bugging you about this?
Oh, it's that and the leak roof.
Okay, so if we got them to repair the leaky roof,
Roof leak.
if we got them to repair the leaky roof, if we got them to repair that, would you reconsider? Because that might be something that we can negotiate and talk about. So,
That's a possibility.
okay, because 155 is pretty low, and would you, I would not expect a counter at that point, especially if they have other things on the table. It was just listed too. So have you seen any other homes yet that are in this price range?
No.
Okay, see, see the difference of like, that was, I gave, and that's not a conversation. So, but that tells me something. Okay, so would you, if I showed you a couple other properties, would you be interested in maybe reviewing what you think the market looks like right now?
Yes.
So these are still closed-ended questions, but what did I just say to her? I just said, hey, I'm trying to give her education at the same time. So instead of being like, okay, this bitch, it's not that, it's more about like, okay, the
Show you
expectation.
what your expectations of 150.
So your offer to that agent would be, hey, we'll give you 175 if you fix the roof.
So she still
What
wants
would
me
you
to
do?
negotiate.
Right.
The scenario still wants me to negotiate. So for that big of a price gap, I would expect more than just the roof to get replaced. What I would say is, hey, my negotiation up front would be like, hey, let's go. I can have my roofer out here, probably today, maybe tomorrow. But if I tell him it has to be in a hurry, he might be able to get out here.
So how would you do that if it's as is? Because that means that the,
Hold on, because this is
Okay.
where the negotiation comes into
Okay.
play. So hey, Mr. Seller's agent, I want you to go and ask what their deductible is. Because then I will add that into my offer price. Because if I find out that their deductible is $2,000 or $1,000, then we'll pay it. And then we get a new roof and I'll give you $175. Because you get a new roof, so now what is there gonna go, what do you worry about? I know that it's
Pay
gonna,
for the roof and you're just paying the deductible,
Right,
so you're
so-
adding it in.
so why don't you do that on the front end?
So why wouldn't you just do the 175?
Just do the 175, because at this point in time, now you're getting a brand new roof, which also means your insurance cost is probably gonna be lower. You
yeah,
have to deal with the leaking roof, and then you might have to deal with some damage that's been caused from the roof leaking.
I like it.
So
So
all done before close.
tell them before closing, because then you have like, if you have someone that goes out there, like Nathan, Nathan with Skinner Roof, Nathan Skinner. And he goes out there and he's just like, oh man, there's like wind and storm damage all over this thing. And he's just up there marking with chalk. I mean, that thing is like gold to him and it's gold to you because now you have a happy client. It's getting a brand new roof. They're paying. But the other scenario in there that I don't want to ignore is a question where I've actually asked this very directly. Where they're like, no, I really want my payment to be around the 155. Okay, well, you were interested in seeing the 175, and right now the market is not, you don't have that ability to have that gap.
Right.
Unless it's been sitting in the market for 2 months without a price adjustment, and now we need to make a new price recommendation with our offer. And that's how I word, I'm like, hey, let's make a price recommendation, because obviously the recommendation that they're asking for is not working. So
That's good too.
yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, because sometimes I call the agent, I'm like, hey, this is just a new price recommendation. Because that's also me kind of being a dick, I'm like, your price sucks.
Yeah.
But if I've got someone where,
Yeah, I know, my client wasn't willing to budge.
and then I just found out, what did I just find out? It's not the agent.
Right.
Now I know who I'm dealing with on the other side of the agent, so I need to start pumping the agent up. I'm gonna pump the agent up and say, hey man, I know that's tough, I know exactly what that feels like. Listen, this is our information that I can data dump onto you, and you can take that back to the seller, and hopefully the seller will have an awakening. And they'll realize that what they need to do is they need to drop the front price, because you have to sell it to who? I mean, if you go to the seller's agent, you're like, hey, I'll write in the email. I'll send the offer, and then in the body of the email, I'll say, hey man, after looking at the average price per square foot, you guys were $10 higher on average. From any of the homes that I've seen, and I just can't come down or come up to that price because I don't want to get under contract and then my client is responsible for the inspection that they're going to pay for upfront, and they're going to have to pay for an appraisal, and that appraisal is going to come in low. So do I have your word that your seller will, if it comes in low, that your seller will come down to the appraised value? And I ask them for their word. I'm like, hey, are you going to be able to talk to your client and make sure they understand once the appraisal comes in, that's the word? Like my client's not gonna pay for a new appraisal. So just because your seller wants more money. So is my client gonna pay the $450 for the inspection, another $550 for an appraisal? Like, I can't do that to my people.
Mhm.
So then you're telling them this is our risk, so what is our risk threshold at this point in time? So,
I feel like I deal with that I'm looking at Table Rock Lake right now for a local, not somebody who's trying to do a flip or
Yeah, yeah.
vacation rental and it's a nightmare. And I mean, there's some stuff down there that just sits there on the market for, over 60 days because they've tacked on an additional 50 grand to it because it sits next to the lake.
yeah.
And
And actually Lake
so
properties,
I'm kind of
yeah.
thought about just put in an offer at 225.
Yeah, put it in and then just say like, hey, but also like ask like, hey, we're gonna put this offer in and it's low, but these are the reasons why. Can you help me understand? Because is there something I'm missing that maybe I didn't take into consideration? And I will totally act like I am the dumbest person on the block. I'm like, listen, I went in and just tell me, like, is there something that I missed? Because if there's something.
Because
I
you're
missed-
taking the defense out of the
Yeah,
agents.
yeah, I'm not going to them and saying like, hey, you price is fucked up. Sorry,
Yeah.
sorry, this is why they
No,
don't
you're
let me
good.
teach a lot of classes here.
You're not the only one.
Not gonna
It's,
do
it's,
that.
it's in everybody's language. We're all good.
We're
fine.
fine.
So I don't want to forget this point because I will totally forget it, but in the scenario, she talks about her student loan debt, right? Okay, so she wants 155 as a payment. I'm like, okay, so if you're approved for, so what you're telling me is you're telling me that you're not comfortable with a payment at 175. Is that what I'm hearing? Because I can negotiate as much as I want, but if you're still not comfortable coming up to 175, that tells me that we need to adjust what we're looking
What you're
for.
looking for.
So now we're looking for something. It's like, yeah, but I still want to make this offer. I want this house. I just want this payment. Okay, well, so this might come across harsh. And I don't mean for it to, but put yourself in the seller's shoes and tell me why it's their problem that you have student loans you have to pay off. And that's why you have to have this payment. That tells me that that's not the price point for you. It's okay. We just need to find you a different home, which means we might have to look at a different area. You know, if you're looking in Clever, let's look in Billings. It's the same distance, it's
Yeah.
just a different direction in the same kind of sort of direction.
Mhm.
So if you're not cool with Clever, all right, or if you're not cool with Nixa, then let's go to Clever. You know, like there's other ways to get around it, or if you're not cool with Nixa, then let's go to Sparta. It's not bad, it's just same direction down the highway.
Mhm.
So find the same house, different area.
I like it.
So. All right. Best practices with presenting. This is one of my favorite parts because this is where you put the show on the road. Call the other agent. For the love of God, call the other agent. If you don't call the other agent, you're missing out on the potential to find out that you're about to write this offer and it was all for nothing. Because they may tell you, you know, we've got 5 offers on the table. They're all way over asking and 2 of them are cash as is. All right, I've got an MHDC. Bye. You know, we're not gonna win. I'm not gonna do it. You know, if my client says, no, I want to write it, we are doing it. I am typing it up. But I'm also gonna tell them like, hey, let's set the expectation for the disappointment. And then when you have someone who's just like, man, I would have gone up higher. But then you as the agent failed. You as the agent failed if your client said, I would have gone up higher.
So what do you ask them prior?
Mhm.
So that
I'm
you
so
don't
glad you
have
asked.
that?
I'm so glad you asked. So glad
Because
because,
I don't want, you don't,
So this
as an
is
agent,
at-
I don't want to get to that point.
so this is at 185. What is the price point that you're like, okay, if someone else gets it, if I don't get it, yeah, I won't be mad, I won't be disappointed, I will be like, okay, I will bow and I will say, all right, the other person can have it. What is that number to you? This is listed at one
She
eighty-five.
said that.
If they say, I won't pay more than 200 for it, I'm like, okay, would you, and hear me out, would you, maybe? Okay, so 2 ways that I go about this. Like, would you go up to 2015? Why is 2015 better than 200?
Closing costs.
No, but good. Everybody goes up to 200. Everybody goes up in increments of 2 and
You're
5.
just above everybody
You're
else.
just above everybody else. It's so, I love, again, really competitive, right? So when I do like any type of like, I'm not a gambler by any means normally, but like, I know that when you're bidding on something, there's a website called, or an app called Slyby, and you have to bid. So I put my highest bid in and I win most of the stuff, which is not very good all the time. Because it's like, Amazon returns.
Yeah.
But I don't want to buy a pallet. I just want to, if I go through it, sometimes they have Patagonia stuff, sometimes they have really nice tools. And you have to pay for shipping, unless you have 5 things, then it's all 50% off shipping. I'm like, oh my God, that's how you get me.
Yeah.
They get me every time. But I never go in with a full amount. I never go in increments of 5s or 10s. I always go in at, you know, if there's something I want and I know that it's probably gonna go up close to 200, I'll put my top threshold as 207. Because then no one's gonna go up to that. The most someone's gonna do, hey, someone's gonna do is like maybe 205. So I'll probably end up getting it. So same concept with real estate, you just do it in a different way. So the other tactic that I've been doing, and I just got a transaction recently, we were the first people in. And I said, okay, here's our offer, it's full asking price. If you accept this, it was 2 PM. I said, if you guys accept this by 5 o'clock, we will pay this. So the offer is this, I'm giving you full asking price, which is what you want, right? This is what your seller wants. Seller wants 200. Okay, cool. We're gonna give you 200. It was 199.9. So I'm like, cool, we're gonna give you 200 flat for it. Tell you what, if you guys accept this by 5 o'clock, it's 2:00 something right now. If you have this signed back in my email before 5, we will give you 206. So if you can you make that call to your seller? Is that cool? Can you do that for me? Just let me know what they think of that.
So how did you present that to your buyers?
I said, I asked, I was like, so, again, I asked the question, what are you willing to lose this house at? What is the price point that you don't want to buy it at? What is that pain threshold? Tell me what your pain tolerance is for this house. Are you okay with this house at 206? They were okay with it at 200, obviously. I knew that they could go all the way up to 216, and their pain tolerance was 216.
Okay.
And so I was like, let me sound really aggressive and give a really short turnaround time. And I told them what I was thinking about doing. And I also knew that I was working with a new agent on the other side. So again,
Nice.
sorry.
I know, right?
I know, I'm like, Sammy, but also here's the difference, a new agent who lacked training.
Mhm.
That's the thing. It's a new agent and he lacked training because I knew what brokerage he was at. And when I called him, I asked him initial questions and clarifying questions with all my open-ended stuff. I mean, he was, oh my God, I couldn't have gotten more information from him. I mean, it was beautiful. So I was just like, and I already opened up that line of communication. We'd already established that back and forth conversation. I'm easy to get along with. I'm easy to work with. And so I said, okay, hey, we're gonna give you full asking price. Do you have any other showings today? Yeah, we've got 2 this evening. Okay, all right, well, would your seller be cool if they what if they were able to get their evening back? What if now I'm giving them 2 gifts. Now I'm giving them more money and I'm giving them their evening back. So they might not give a shit, but they also might have 2 big dogs that now they have to load up in the car and wait for people to walk through their house. That's annoying. I just went through that. My house closes tomorrow. That shit was for the birds. I just closed on my new house and I'm selling my old house. I'm like, I know exactly what I put my people through. I need to call my sellers and say, I am so sorry. But what do you guys think about that?
Genius, I love it.
Love it.
I didn't come up with it, so.
Well, I
I'm
mean,
not gonna
it's
take the credit.
regardless, I mean, it's
I'm not gonna take all
still,
They're gonna say it's you,
Sure, that's where you learned it
because
from.
that's how
I
I
mean,
remember it.
and what,
that's like-
6,000 adjusts your payment by
That's like
what,
being
how
like-
much?
Aggressive, is that
Passive aggressive?
Passive.
Like,
A little bit.
but making them think that there's.
I'm okay with it.
Yeah.
Well, passive aggressive, thank you. Thank you. My wife says that I do that sometimes. It's so weird. I do it at work too.
Oh, well, you know.
No, so I've done that a couple times, and I will tell you that doing that against like a Carrie Worth, she's probably gonna look at you and be like, I know what I got, girl. Like, there's a difference, you know?
Well,
So-
but someone had, let's say it's you and somebody's offering that to you, you're still gonna, why would you not take that?
It just-
Or would you wait?
Because I know I could wait and probably still get it.
And it just depends on what it would combat, right?
Mhm.
Like if that's like right at the top threshold of what you think you could get, then
I've had it before where I've been like, if we wait, we might get that or more. And I'll tell them like, because some agents will be like, hey, I just wrote you an offer. Sorry, it's 12-hour expiration. And then I'm like, okay, well, that doesn't give it's 8 o'clock at night. So you're giving us 12 hours. You're giving us overnight to accept your offer, which means that any of the tomorrow showings aren't going to happen. I'll just tell them like, hey, you know what? We'll do highest and best by the end of tomorrow or by the following day. We're not going to accept something that's going to be this short of notice. And I've had another agent that is just like, well, it's going to expire. I'm like, well, then renew it.
then I
Then
can
renew
count
it. They're like, well, send us a counter. I'm like, no. Like, hey, send us your highest and best. I'm not gonna negotiate against myself.
Something I learned yesterday too is you don't have to counter in that timeline.
Mm-mm.
The counter is your own timeline.
Yeah,
which
yeah.
is- which
You only have
is-
to accept on the timeline.
Right,
That's correct.
correct.
Counter.
So I mean.
I mean, it's no longer in play and technically they can just walk away, but I mean, they can also, if they want the house and they still want the house and they wait and
It's
accept.
still, yeah, it's still leverage.
So, right, still leverage. So don't get bullied by people like me. Or do. And accept my glance either.
I'm like, challenge accepted.
Challenge accepted. Okay, so call the other agent. That's the only one I've gotten through yet so far. Holy shit. Okay. Pay attention to non-verbal cues like pauses and voice qualities. This is where I would say cadence and basically the speed in which someone is talking to you. Evan DeShong used it. I think this is one of the classes that he used to teach. He's one of the investors here. He's been here a long time. Excellent, excellent instructor. He will not negotiate via email or text messages. So if you try and text him, he will call you. You will get a phone call. I see him upstairs walking around when he's upstairs because he's always on his phone. And I do the same thing. You're gonna have to call me and not talk to me through text, because I wanna know. I wanna know what you're, like, what are you trying to say? I can't get anything from you when I can't hear your voice, when I don't know if this is exciting or not, or this is like really annoying to you. I need to know those things. So the cadence in which someone does something is really
So
important.
let's say I'm texting you an offer,
Mhm.
you're gonna turn around and call me and say what?
Okay, you just texted me an offer and you said, hey, this should be in your email. Cool, I'm gonna check it out first. I'm gonna check out what you got. But I'm also gonna call you and say like, hey, so if you didn't give me what I wanted and you came in low or something, that deserves a phone call. And if you didn't give me that phone call, I'm certainly gonna be like, okay, so tell me about this pricing. So instead of like, okay, so your number is under asking, that's a closed-ended question. Okay, so why did you come under asking? I'm not gonna ask that, that's defensive. Okay, tell me how you got to this number. How is this, did you come up with this or did your client come up with this? So if they just say like, we just think this is, I've had someone call me and there's like, hey man, just wrote you an offer, really exciting. I'm super excited to get this done with you. I'm like, damn, every time they're like, man, I am so excited to get this deal.
Yeah, you know.
And I'm like, shit. I know that I'm gonna have just a piece of a turd sitting in my email right now, you know, I don't want that. But then I'm gonna call them back and say, hey, I thought you said that you just wrote me a really exciting offer and you were excited to get this done. Then that counteracts what you just put in my email. You must have made a mistake. I called the agent back and said, I'm sorry, there must be some mistake. You just wrote me a terrible offer. And he's just like, oh, we can come to terms with something. I'm like, well, you didn't even start out with full asking. I don't know how we can negotiate this. And I've told sellers just completely like, don't respond, just reject it. It's very rare that I will hit the reject button on something because that is not where negotiation happens. They just threw you something, toss something back. Don't just shut it down. I mean, I say that, but then like someone wrote an offer on my house and I totally was just like, go fuck yourself. I mean, it was 30,000 low and I was like, no. Yeah, so like
Not in
in
this
that,
market, you can't do it.
it was a new agent who had no training and she had never written an offer and been under contract on a home here in Springfield. She was from a small area. And I was like, no, we're not gonna play these games. So,
Okay, then help me out in this situation.
got it.
So I
So,
have a commercial listing right now set at 99,000.
Okay.
The seller already said he would come off 5,000 for an AC unit. Bunch of crackheads came in, they stole the AC unit, stole some other stuff, but for the most part, running bar, running entertainment place.
is it only going to cost $5,000 to replace it? Do you have, because most AC units are gonna be
A little more expensive.
Yeah.
That I'm not 100% positive,
Mhm.
but it wasn't like a huge unit.
Okay, are you telling people that the seller is willing to credit $5,000 towards that?
Only the person that has a contingency on it right now,
Okay.
but their home is not selling, so it's about to end. The
Okay.
contingency is about to end, even though I know we can still accept offers.
Sure, yeah.
I just got a phone call last night from a guy, very, very interested. They're about to get this settlement. They want to pay cash. They wanted to offer 60,000. I know.
Cool.
That's where I'm like,
Well, for anybody that calls me and says, hey, we're getting a settlement, I'm like, how far out are you on the settlement?
14
Right.
yes,
Like-
14 days is what he said. That was my first question.
Okay,
I know.
we're
And
14 days out. I'm like, who's the attorney so I can confirm that?
right, this is what I said to him. I was
Yeah,
just
you need
sitting
more
there,
time.
I said, okay, well, I'm going to Florida until the 8th.
Mhm.
That's past, the contingency ends on the 10th. That gives you at least 14 days to get your settlement processed and it
Mhm.
finished and you have cash in hand.
Yeah.
And then I called the seller and I kind of explained what was going on and he was like, well, just let me know whatever they end up offering. Well, they verbally said on the phone, like, we would love to do like 60,000.
Hmm.
And I was just like, okay, well, I'll run that by my seller.
Is this the buyer or is this the buyer's agent?
This would just be a buyer. They
Okay.
don't have an agent. So then I threw out, well, if you don't have an agent, I would love to represent you.
Mhm.
And I was like, I can write up your contract. I can submit it to the seller. I was like, I can do a dual agency, I can represent both of you.
Sure.
But what I don't know how to say to them is he is not gonna take it for 60,000.
I mean, you need to be upfront about it. I would be
Mhm.
upfront about it and be like, hey, cash doesn't matter. I
Like
mean,
75, probably,
mhm,
maybe,
but you can't say that.
but I cannot say that.
No. So if your seller is willing, you can go back and say, hey, I talked to the seller
Mhm.
and I can get this all written up, that this is his lowest threshold.
Okay,
Let me know if that works for you.
okay.
And, so again, a lot of times people say, like, they throw the word cash out there, like it's some kind of godly word.
Right.
And I'm like, that doesn't, at the end of the day, it's all gonna be a wire or a cashier's check at the closing
Mhm.
table. Nobody cares.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
yes, there's less contingencies and less restrictions, especially in terms of how to close,
Mhm.
in terms of lending. But if they're a pre-qualified, really well-qualified buyer, there's no difference in my mind between a
Right.
cash buyer and a well-qualified buyer.
My other question, they were like, does everything work in there? Last we knew it did.
Mhm.
They spoke to one of the bartenders. Now, it has not ran and been open in almost 3 years. The owner passed away like 3 years ago. Well,
Which bar
2
is
years
this?
ago. It's Everton, the Shaved Beaver. Have you ever heard of it? I know.
Yeah.
I never refer to it like that. I remember it as the dip.
I know.
I know, but I do not, I'm just like, oh my gosh, I just call it the Beaver.
Yeah, sure.
But, or the dip, the bar, whatever. So I said to them, they were like, well, we talked to a bartender, a previous bartender.
Mhm.
And she told us that some of that stuff doesn't work. But it's being sold as is,
Mhm.
but he is willing and said, I can say he would drop the price 5,000 for an AC unit.
So all of this stuff is hearsay.
Yes.
So all of that's noise. So I don't
Yes.
even address it.
Okay.
That's something that I'm like, because if no one's been in the bar and it's been a non-functioning bar, then there is shit that's gonna be wrong with it, without a
Yes.
doubt.
Yeah, it's just
So
not been
there's
It's just not gonna be
Yeah.
functioning like
So
it was.
it's not gonna be functioning to the degree in which it was, and it's not gonna be functioning to the degree in which it should, and also
Mhm.
there's no AC in it.
Mhm.
Which also, nothing's been going through the plumbing in a long time, so
Right.
it's just been sitting there vacant, so guess what, you're gonna have problems, enjoy.
Mhm.
At the same time, your seller needs to be aware of that,
Mhm.
and so there's two sides of
So,
this.
I guess my question would be, if it was a functioning, working building,
Mhm.
bar,
Mhm.
what would it be worth?
I mean, that's.
I would say the 99,
Mhm.
just me, I would say
So
absolutely the
99.
listing price, the 99.
So there's gonna be the AC.
So if it's
problem,
working now, but it's not,
But it's not currently
it's not
working,
currently
and it's under
working.
contract
Mhm.
for 99.
94.
94, okay,
Mhm.
so he's willing to come down to 94. Is he
Mhm.
willing to come down to 94 plus the 5,000?
Probably.
Okay, if that's the case, then write it up and make it done.
Mhm.
Make your seller happy, make the new buyer happy.
Oh,
But-
you mean you were talking the seller? Or
Yeah.
I'm sorry, were you talking the buyer?
If the buyer, yeah, make them
If
both
the
happy at
buyer,
that point in time.
94 plus the 5,000?
Yeah, and so, well, I mean, take it all the way down,
Yeah.
just take it all the way down. So
Mhm.
you're at 89. So if they're cool with that, that's a significant difference between 99,
Yes,
but it's also a significant difference between 60.
yes.
So if your seller doesn't have to give it away. If they
Uh-huh.
don't want to sell it for less than 70,
Mhm.
less than 80, then
Mhm.
don't. If they're like if he's like, my lowest threshold is 85, I won't go below it. For the seller's agent, you can't tell people that
Right, right.
unless he's just like, because at that point in time, now you need to start encouraging price reductions.
Mhm. Mhm.
So if he's willing to do that, to say, hey, the time to make this move is now,
Mhm.
we need to make it move, so we need to go ahead and drop the price.
Okay.
So let's drop it closer to your low threshold,
Mhm.
and then let's get it going.
Got it.
So That's what I would say. It sounds like if you've got someone that's like, oh, hey, I wanna buy this piece of shit bar,
Right.
I'll give you 60,000, they're probably not someone that you're gonna end up closing with anyway.
Right.
So, I mean, try and represent them as much as you can, you might be able to get done.
Yeah.
But, I mean, again, if they're like 60,000 is my offer, I talked to someone who worked there years ago, well, okay,
Yeah.
cool. Those are things that you're gonna have to fix regardless.
Mhm.
Let's go see the property.
If you were me, would you say something like, well, that is kind of hearsay, you know, it is as is, or
No,
would you
I'd
not
say,
say
hey,
that? You
I'd
just
say,
be
hey,
like,
let's go see it.
Yeah.
Let's go see the property, all right? And like, there's gonna be stuff, you're absolutely right. There's gonna be stuff that's wrong with it, but the seller is aware of that.
Mhm.
The seller is also aware of the condition that it's currently in.
Yeah.
And that's why they know that there's a little bit of movement
Mhm.
in terms of the price, but that's.
It also, when it's a running open bar,
Mhm, but-
it
Once it's
literally
fully
brought in 210,000 one year.
Okay, well then, there you go.
Mhm.
Just say, I mean, that's information that you need.
That's good information.
That's information for you to say, like,
And that was
so,
on one bike, holding one huge
Bike
biker rally.
Yeah. Yeah.
Won 210,000 that year.
Mhm. Yeah.
So can I say that?
yeah.
I think that's
I
gonna
would
be
I
public.
mean,
That
as
would
long
be-
as it's true.
Yes.
And you have clout to back it up.
Yes.
Okay, as long as you can back it up, like with a P and L and those type of things. then
Now, I will
especially-
say the previous owner wasn't very good at like taxes or anything.
Well, are there
so-
liens on the property?
There used to be, but there's not anymore. The seller right now paid for everything.
That's
that-
information that you need to tell to the buyer, like,
Got
hey, there were liens, the seller took
Mhm.
care of them, so that's why.
Okay,
Like,
yes.
those are things you need,
Back
like,
taxes.
yeah.
That's
just
what
say
it
all of
was.
that stuff's been taken care of, so that's why the seller's not willing to come down that low. If those things were still problematic, absolutely, we could talk about that price range,
Right,
absolutely.
right.
Because we
did
would
do
have
that.
problematic things that we have to go through and title, but those things have all been taken care of, so the headache is gone.
Mhm.
And so at this point in time, we think that the facility itself, once it's fixed up, it's gonna be a fully functioning bar. It's gonna make you a lot of money. You're gonna make a lot of money at this bar if you do it right. That's on you. But those are things that I would definitely be willing to say. Background stuff, the background of like, hey, the previous owner, and also you're taking the pressure, the current seller is not the person who didn't pay the taxes. They got it, they made it right. They made everything right. They're holding on to this property. They need to move it. They're willing to talk. But that is just not a price point that's compatible with what this property deserves.
And the potential buyer, they did also know the previous owner, so they're familiar with how he was.
Yeah.
They even like referred to him by his first name, which I know who he is too. And so it made me think like saying something like that would
Yeah.
be legit, like they would totally understand and believe like,
Right.
okay, he didn't pay his taxes
Right,
and this
right.
seller now did and covered it. So
Yeah.
that should be a good point as well, I
Yeah,
would
for
think.
sure. All right, I'm gonna keep going with this, okay?
Yep.
All right,
Thank you.
keep quiet once you present your offer. If you have a piece of information that you're trying to extract from the other agent, ask the question, whatever it might be, and then wait. It's the same thing with being on the stand. Don't elaborate. Just put the question out there and wait. And if they give you a short answer, like a yes or no, or a one-word answer, keep waiting. It might be awkward, but you might be able to extract more, because silence is awkward for people, especially high I personalities. So if high I personalities are presented with a situation where it's like, I want to fill the silence. And so there's gonna be a lot of times where you can just keep quiet and just let the other agent talk. So that has given me, I'd probably say I've gotten just as much information out of being silent as I have with asking open-ended questions. I'd say silence is just as good. Listen carefully to what is important to the other party. Stay calm and relaxed. Don't get too excited. And don't get upset. We're professionals. This is not personal. Unless they said something about you personally, don't do it. Don't get upset. Don't get bent out of shape, because then I know that if that's how you are with me, then how are you talking to your client? Focus on the customer's needs. Give your offer the best chance possible. And again, that's by doing the things previously listed, by staying calm and relaxed, listening to the other party, asking questions, calling the other agent, but also just making sure that you're keeping quiet and making sure that they have the ability to answer all of your questions to the fullest, okay?
Do you offer to, like, if they seem a little leery on the price, but they're highly interested, do you offer to not run comps, but to look at things that have sold recently and
Yeah.
make sure that it supports that price?
I had one client and he was just, every single time, I mean, anytime we would go and see a house, it's like, what do the comps say? What are the comps? It's like, show me the Carfax, show me the comps. And I was like, well, I'll go back and run them, because I don't just run comps willy-nilly, like I go and I look at things and I do adjustments a lot of times. And so he was, what do the comps say? I'm like, well, let me pull up a couple things and I'll show you. 11 sold for $255. Why is this listed at $270? Well, because it has a third car garage. You know, or this is I'm like, or I'll say, look, this is a 3.2. Well, the other one was a 3.2. The other one was a 3.1.5. This is a 3.2. This has a privacy fenced in backyard. Also doesn't back up to a main road. It's appropriately priced. Okay, all right. Yeah, okay. Okay, so your position in your negotiations, you want to acknowledge and affirm your common ground. So you want to make sure, especially the other agent, we're in the deal of closing deals. We're in the business of closing deals. We want to make sure that everyone knows, I want to get this done. I want to make sure my client loves the house. Your client really wants to sell it at this price point. Ask what and how questions. So would it work better if your clients, so let's go to how question. How important is that to your seller? How important is this to, the time frame? Is it important? So, and I'll ask, I was like, okay, who is this important to? You want to close leave the land and title? Who is that important to? Is that important to you or is that important to your seller? Okay, so because in the buyer side technically gets picked, in Missouri. So I love Meridian Title. I close everything at Meridian Title with Holly. That doesn't mean that people have always had a good experience at Meridian Title. There have been a couple hiccups that have happened because they've expanded so much. Now, if someone says, I've had bad experiences at other title companies, and there's one title company that I really don't like closing at all. And so I will do everything I can to avoid that, but I will not lose a deal over it. And so if they say we want to close at blank title company, okay, and my client is like, I want this house and I want you to make sure I get this house. That is not even something I will attempt to negotiate. That is not my business to do. They want this. The seller said that they want to close at blank title company. That is exactly where we're gonna close.
I will close on the moon.
That's where your client wants to close. My client wants this house. I want this to be a good, clean offer. We're gonna do no property data days. We're gonna check mark the limitation box. We're gonna have 10 days for the inspections. Like we're gonna make this a good, clean offer. We're gonna do everything we can. And that's the way that we get deals closed, is we make sure that we send them the offer. That's gonna be nice. It's gonna be pretty to look at because it's gonna be filled out just like it should be. There's gonna be, is this contingent upon another home? If it's not, that's gonna be check mark no. That's what I consider to be a good, clean offer. Know that positioning is a process, know when to walk away. Also, don't push it. If you're fighting too hard and it's just, you're coming up against a brick wall every single time you turn around, then, and your client is like exhausted, don't force your client through. Just start going and showing other homes. Okay, another scenario. What's the scenario? Can you guys read the scenario to me? Since we're down a guy, I'll just do it with you.
The property has 4 bedrooms,
Okay.
3.5 baths, and is listed at $350,000
Okay.
in a well-established neighborhood. The house requires new carpeting throughout the first floor and a new garage door opener. 3 offers have been made, but all were below the asking price. In the buyer agent role, it says your buyers are making an offer of $340,000 for the house. They have been pre-approved. The buyers would like to close in the shortest time possible since they are moving from out of state and need a home for their family. Since they are leaving their appliances in their current home, the buyers would also like all of the appliances to be included. Listing agent role. Your sellers have raised their family in the house you are selling and have many friends and family in the area. Since their children are now grown, they no longer need the amount of space their current home provides and have purchased a home in Florida. They would like to give all appliances to their daughter, who has just gone through a divorce. They will not be moving until they have sold their current house. And although they would like to get to Florida as soon as possible, they are ready to stand their ground regarding the price.
This is fun.
Mm.
Okay, so, okay, so let's just break down the roles here, okay? There's the buyers and what they want to do. We understand that they want to come in at 10,000 under and that they want all the appliances. The appliances are non-negotiable. That is not a question. They will not be staying. So we understand that the seller's daughter just got a divorce and that they want to provide something to their daughter who has an emotional need right now. And the parents are gonna provide that. So if the buyers really want the appliances to stay, they're probably gonna have to offer more money. So if all of the other offers are, I mean, this is in a time frame. Like, so if you were the buyer's agent, what questions would you call me as the seller's agent and ask me?
What was your question again?
If you were the buyer's agent, what would you call me with? What are questions that you would call and ask me?
Can you ask what the lowest they would take is?
You can, yeah, that is one. But they may
Probably not
already,
gonna get anything.
well, maybe. So, okay, I would ask those questions, like, so
How soon do your,
that's a good start.
how soon do your sellers need to be in Florida?
So they want to go as soon as possible, but they're not willing to, they're fine to stay for as long as they need. They are not in a hurry.
Next.
Can you tell me a little bit about the other offers? What can you tell me about the other offers? I can tell you that none of them are asking. That everything is below asking right now. So if you were to come to me and say, tell me what's so important about the appliances for your buyers?
Yeah, because I don't know that.
So,
Yeah.
well, they're moving from out of state, they're leaving all their appliances behind.
Well, I don't know that the sellers have the emotional situation.
But yeah, that's why you have to ask those questions. So so if I were to be like, hey, this is the offer that we're gonna write, it's 340, I'm gonna try and write you the cleanest offer I can get you, okay? So what I've got here is I've got 340, I know that we're not coming in and asking, and we definitely need all of the appliances, just all of them. Like, we want the washer dryer, we want the refrigerator to stay, we want all of that. So from the information that you know, talk to me about it as the seller's agent and tell me why.
So she's
Because they're coming from out of state.
yeah, they're coming, she can fully disclose they're coming in from out of state, can't she?
And I've got, so if you're the buyer side and just like, that's just the reason why it's really important. Okay, so what I'm hearing is that since they're moving out of state, they don't have any appliances right now. Is that what you're telling me?
Yes.
Okay, so just so you're aware, the appliances, that's not something we're gonna be able to leave, no matter what you put in the offer. Because they have a situation, they have a family situation right now, and because of that, they are going to be allowing the appliances to go with someone in need right now, okay? So unfortunately, we won't be able to do that.
Okay.
I'm not strong arming, I'm just explaining.
Mhm.
It's like, if there's something, if for some reason it's that important that those specific appliances stay, then I can talk to them, but you'll have to be able to provide enough money in the offer for them to buy new appliances for that need that I
That was my
described.
next thing I was gonna say.
For that need that I described, they will have to then find a way to replace that. And I don't know if that's something that they're willing to do.
So at that point, would you, for the buyers, would you encourage them to do asking price
If that was something that was
Or-
that important to them, but also keep in mind, the seller
even
might.
5,000 over so that they could buy? so
Yeah,
that
but
they could
why,
leave?
I would tell my buyers at that point in time, I would then go back to my buyers and say, hey, there's some type of emotional tie and they've got a family in need and they want to give. And so they need to make that happen for them. So instead of trying to offer them more, maybe you can offer them less. And also, like, if they don't want to take less and you really want to get this house, keep in mind, you've got some of these repairs coming in from out of town, but maybe save some of that money and just buy new appliances.
Which I think most buyers would do.
So we're not even, this is stuff where I'm just like, at some point in time, I'll tell people, okay, I think we need to move past this. Okay, we need to, so I learned back when I was, this is an interrogation tactic. When I had someone that was giving me information, they called 911, I showed up and I was just like, listening to all of the freaking backstory about blah, 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 who was dating, blah, blah, blah. And now I'm like, I'm here because someone just got hit in the head with a hammer. I don't give a shit about someone's ex-girlfriend 5 years ago. Stop telling, and so I'm like, I'm past this. I don't want to talk about any of that. That's not why I'm here. I'm here because with this situation, we need to focus on the goal. So sometimes we need to do that to our clients. We need to talk to our clients and make sure we're like, hey, we need to move past this. Okay, the appliances, that can't make or break a deal. Those are personal property items. They add no value according to an appraiser. So we need to figure out the situation. So your situation is,
That's a good point.
I'm done. We can't continue to do this. If I had a buyer's agent that came back to me and said, hey, this is what we're gonna do. We're gonna write the offer as I told you. It's gonna be 340 and we're gonna ask for all the appliances to stay. I'm gonna tell them, all right, you know what? I'll present it, but I already told you we're past this point and we are not gonna be doing that. So when we just keep in mind, I have other offers on the table.
It's basically implying that they're wasting their time doing
What you're
that.
also doing to telling me is that your sellers or your buyers, I'm sorry, your buyers are hard to work with. Because I already told you and you don't care. How is that gonna, now I have to translate that back to my seller. And a lot of times what sellers and buyers will do is create a narrative. This is really, really important. Your guys are gonna come across this shit all the time. Someone has created a narrative. My wife did this the other day. Love my wife. She's a wonderful person, right? Of course she is, because she's my wife. But what she did was, we got an inspection notice. And how very dare they ask for these electrical needs? And I'm like, well, actually, these are all pretty reasonable. But she was pissed. Because now I have to get, she was in the middle of moving, or one of our toddlers was getting sick. I was sick. I was actually just getting out of the ER and she's feeling overwhelmed. Our contractor's in California doing another job out in California, making great money because it's California money, but he lives here in Missouri. What are you doing out in California right now, buddy? We need you here. Well, we got an inspection notice and she was just like, that was the straw that just broke the camel's back. And she was livid that they very dared us to fix these items. And I had looked through the entire inspection report and I was like, these are all super reasonable requests. It's like, actually, I'm glad they asked for that. We should probably get this done. So I'm like, all right, fair enough. But she was pissed. And she was like, oh, I bet they were just like, oh, you're gonna do this for us. I'm like, what? Where did she know? Like, so she created the scenario.
But I think that's how negotiating several
So-
years ago was. I mean, it was
Yeah.
very
Well,
cutthroat.
sometimes, yeah, but in this scenario, I was just like, what the fuck are you talking about? You know, like, that's just not how this works. Don't let your clients, if you start hearing a narrative that you didn't give to them, stop it in its tracks. Stop it right then and they'll be like, hey, whoa, whoa, whoa. They're not coming from a place of harm. They're not coming out of a place of trying to get something from you. They're not trying to get anything out of you. Like, they're just trying to make this work and this is just their repairs because the agent recommended them. We don't even know if they asked for them. Their agent may have recommended these repairs. So, man, that's always fun to deal with. So, anything else about the scenario specifically that you guys want to work on?
What is the offer that you would have come in with? If you were the buyer's agent?
If I was a buyer's agent on, so I would have said, let's make it a good, clean offer. You guys want to come in at 340, they're not going to do the appliances. This house needs a lot of work. You're going to need to get contractors in here once you move in anyway from being out of state. So I would say if a washer and dryer and a refrigerator, it's going 335, see what happens. You cover your own closing costs. They want to close soon, but they don't have to give it away. So let's say on or before, give them a 35-day closing date, 40-day closing date. You know, but say we're willing, make sure they know we're willing to close in 25 if our lender allows it, or 20 days if our lender allows it. So because if they are like, okay, what's more important, timeline? You want a short timeline more so than the money? Okay, well then you can't rob them. You can't come in too low. If you want, you're gonna have to be willing to pay more to get into the house sooner. So you can't have both. You know, I tell people a lot, you can either have the deal or the house, and right now you're not gonna get both. So if you want the house, you're not gonna get a deal. And you have to know that going into it. This market doesn't allow for people to get steals of a deal. Yes, a foreclosure just hit the market, but guess what the bank did? Ripped out all the old carpet and replaced it, and they painted the house. You're not gonna be able to come in and offer less just because it's a bank. That's just not real. So
It's not a wait.
It's not a wait, it ain't 09, it ain't 2010. So, that's what I would do. I would just say, if you have to pay for that special circumstance. Your special circumstance is you want this house in 20 days. You're not doing them a favor by closing in 20 days. You're doing them a favor if you allow them to have more money at that point in time. So that's one of the things that I would do. Okay. Negotiation tips, be professional, obviously. It seems like it's kind of a duh, but some people come in and they're just, sometimes that high D personality can come out of people super abrasive. So, yeah, if you come in too abrasive, people are like, you're gonna be hard to work with.
I always have, because all of my kids are that way, and they're all like, my boys are 6'5", 6 foot, and my dad's always like, you guys talk down to everybody. Like, come up, talk level.
Yeah, no, you're right. That's actually a good way to put that. So keep your goal in mind. One thing about keeping your goal in mind is also keeping your buyer or seller's motivation in mind. Don't lose sight of that, and don't let them lose sight of that either. Pay attention to your communication and your tone with anybody involved in the transaction, to include the home inspector, your contractor, and your title rep. Make sure that you're nice to your title people and your lender, because so if you get something from the underwriter or the processor, don't get shitty with them. Just call them.
Yeah.
Don't get shitty with your lender. Do not ever get shitty with an underwriter. Because the underwriter will be like, oh, really? You think that? Cool. We're gonna delay the closing another week.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm sure
I'm
they all have
celebrating.
blackball lists.
Yeah, well,
where,
they
just
like,
had it on.
You know what I need? I need you to write me an amendment that changes this to Avenue. Because it didn't say it, it just said Weller. Didn't say Weller Avenue or Weller Street, whatever it is. They're like, I need an amendment. I need everybody to sign it, and the other party has like 7 reps on the, it's in it just got out of probate, and now it's being sold. You have 7 family members that need signatures on one stupid thing because of a 3-letter. Yeah, I've had it happen, and I'm just like, hey, did I piss you off? Like, what is this not? Oh, the underwriter just needed it. How long has your underwriter been doing this? That's usually when I ask that question, where I'm like, hey, just real quick, this is stupid. Why are we doing this? Because I don't like to waste my time, but I certainly don't want to waste all my people's time. But here I am about to waste their time. So can you explain to me?
Yeah.
Because now I have to go back to them and say, this is a super important document and I need you to just click it. So anyway,
It's time.
Their email
The
for the
initial
next 3
20
days.
times.
it's gonna sit in their email. You're gonna have to poke them and poke them and poke them. Then they're gonna be annoyed with you because you're annoying, telling them, I need you to sign this document. So anyway, so pay attention to your tone and don't be rude, okay? Continually refer to your client's motivation when speaking with them, which again, keeping the goal in mind. Don't reveal too much, listen more than talk, keep your client's motivation close to your chest. Don't be attached to the outcome. You can get to the closing table, and if people don't sign, it don't matter. None of it does. Nobody gets paid and everyone's mad at the end of the day. Ahas. Has any of this information been helpful? I guess is the ahas.
Absolutely.
All right. What is so out of any of this today, what is something that you will take away for the most part?
All of it.
All of it?
Yeah.
Oh, yay.
No, seriously, it's just, even just the scenarios or hearing both sides of it with somebody that's strong-willed, that doesn't give a lot of information, but yet that's how I want to be. I want to be the best for my client, not, I mean, I
Yeah.
want to be more about the client than the deal. The
It
deal
is.
come.
The deals will come. The better you take care of your clients, the more deals will come to you.
Yeah.
And that's because of your referrals. Make sure you're asking for your referrals. So, I mean, part of your DT, D2s and your communications and your calls is just asking people, hey, do you know anybody that's talked about buying or selling? Can you introduce them to me? Sure, absolutely, great. Go ahead and send them a text with my number in the text. So that way they have my number and I know to communicate with them and I don't have to keep bugging you for their number. Okay, well, let me call them first before I just give their number away. Okay, cool, I'm asking you to give my number away. Okay, well, I'll shoot them your number and I'll have them text you. Well, here's the thing, this is what I found. people do want to work with me because they know that your referral and your recommendation means a lot. But what ends up happening is they get this idea of getting into real estate, or they like buying and selling real estate. And so then they start going to these things called open houses, and then they get snagged by the first agent that they meet. So that's why it's really important that you introduce me to them. Who did I just negotiate with? My past clients, my referrals, my spheres. You're negotiating with people all the time. It's not just agents and buyers and sellers. It's people who you are looking for business, and you need to make sure that those people know that you need to be top of mind. So the biggest thing about what's the best way to find more business in real estate? Yeah, and make sure that everybody knows that you're an agent. Because then when someone comes across your feed in your Facebook and they've got keys standing in front of their new front door, and they're like, just bought a house, and it wasn't with you, that is a gut punch every time.
I'll tell you
It
my
is.
gut punch this morning.
Hmm.
2 neighbors down from us, a friend of my boyfriend's, literally told my boyfriend last weekend that he wanted to list his house.
Mhm.
He just needed to do a little painting, little cleaning, good to go.
Mhm.
They literally shook hands. I wasn't a part of this. I don't know where I was at our house probably. I walked out this morning and there's another agent signing the
Mhm.
yard.
So where was your follow-up?
That is, I think, where I messed up because he's a
Yeah.
truck driver.
Mhm.
So my boyfriend came home, he's like, hey, Joe wants to list with you, you know. And I was like, that's great. Did you give him my number? No, I told him just whenever he's ready, let me know. And I was like, okay, well, I would have loved to have had his number,
Mhm.
but that's okay. And then I saw him a few days ago when I was leaving to come to class, and he was in his truck, but picking up his nephew to
Mhm.
ride with him. So I
Yeah.
waved, you know, the sign still wasn't up, and then I walk out this morning and there's another sign up. And I was like,
So, but moral of the story is, so like, if you get a referral,
If
you don't,
someone says that, if someone says, hey, yeah, we need to list our house,
I should have, that's where I made the mistake.
The
is I
second someone
didn't
tells me
call
I'm interested in
him.
selling, I'm already at their house. I'm like, I just knew you were gonna say that. And so I've been sitting on your front porch for like 5 minutes waiting for you to get home. So, I know this is awkward, but.
That's where I went wrong.
Yeah. So make sure you understand that feeling and don't let it go.
Mhm.
I mean, forgive yourself for
Mhm.
sure, but remember what it feels like.
Yeah.
So I had someone reach out to me and they wanted me to list their home. No, not list their home. They said, hey, I need to buy a house soon. I was like, awesome, let me know when you're ready. We'll set up a buyer's consultation and we'll get going. And that's how I left it.
Mhm.
I had never done that again.
Mhm.
From now on, I'm like, great, when are you available?
Yeah.
Like, so this is when I'm available. Let's talk. Let's get this on the books. Let's
Mhm.
put this in our calendar. We need to get this going.
Mhm.
And the reason I do it that way now is because a couple months later, I never followed up with them.
Mhm.
I just said, awesome, let me know when you're ready.
Yeah.
Well, they were ready. So they
That's how y'all
started,
got to them before. you did.
they started going to open houses. And they have a really good agent that I have a lot of respect for. Because they went to her open house and she is amazing in person. And even though they reached out to me, she asked them, are you working with an agent? They're like, no, the person we were gonna use just never got back to me. Cause you better believe I asked that agent, hey, motherfucker. Did they tell you they were working with an agent? Cause she didn't sign any paperwork with me. I didn't sit down. I was like, hey, she was fair game. This was no loss for, and she was like, oh, you were the agent. You didn't follow up with them. That's what she told me. She said you never followed up with them. And I was like, I didn't. That's why I was just like, I am a piece of shit human being and I failed at
Well,
life.
that's literally
So-
kind of how I feel. I feel that way, but then I also was like, well, he told him I'm going to get with her. It would have been this coming weekend, like
Right.
now.
Yeah.
And he was like, okay, sounds great. I'll let her know. Well, you
Mhm.
know, but then it's my bad for not like
Yeah.
even texting, Facebook
Yeah.
messaging, calling, whatever.
Mhm. Yeah. I
And
mean,
not
I've had
following through.
clients before that I haven't followed up with because I don't want to deal with them.
Mhm,
And
mhm.
I'm like, oh, cool, you know, and they're like, I mean, I had one girl, she reached out to me 3 times, and I finally was just like, unfortunately, I am so busy right now. My business is so successful. But really what it was is I was just like, you put me through the ringer,
Yeah.
and I will never represent you again.
Yeah.
But we have spheres that commingle, and I can't burn that bridge too bad, so I finally was just like, I wish I could, but I am so swamped right now that I feel like if I tried to take on
Which that
your business.
covers your integrity
Right,
anyways,
right.
to not be a butt.
And then afterwards, I was just like, she sold it, and I was like, man, everything's cleared up, so if you know anyone looking by yourself, you can, I mean, feel free to refer back to me, it's great, it's so great. So,
I mean, it's so funny, like, we even share the same trash can, like, they have two and they let us use one. And he's moving to the house next door, he owns both of them. So he's still going to be now, instead of 2 houses down, 3 houses down.
what a dick.
And I was like, really?
Right?
Hey, screw that guy.
And we are literally talking to him all the time.
I wonder,
Oh, I was so disappointed, like, I was
you know
so
what Carrie would
excited
say?
to
What would Carrie
listen.
say? Aaron, what Carrie say? She made me do it.
What did Carrie, who?
You ask him why he didn't use you.
Oh, my gosh, yeah.
Carrie, what?
Carrie tennis is all about if somebody didn't use you,
Ask them
that,
why.
that, you know, you
Well, how?
just, hey, I'm wanting to learn. I'm a new agent. I'm wanting to learn. Well, can I
Like,
ask?
My boyfriend did text, I called him and I was like, hey, this is really weird. There's a realtors and it's Reese Nichols from like Mount Vernon or something that way. And I literally said, this is not even a local agent.
They're
And
not, they don't know this market like
No,
you do,
I
especially,
said,
you're the neighborhood realtor.
Yeah.
You literally live in that
And
neighborhood.
when it sits on the market for 60
I
days.
literally
Oh.
lived there. And my boyfriend, he was like, oh my gosh, he goes, well, and I said, it's my fault. And I explained that it's my fault. I should have followed up. I should have contacted him. I dropped, I shouldn't have done that. And he was like, but in my old school way, he handshook. And I
Yeah,
said, unfortunately, you're not the realtor though. I know you're trying
Yeah.
to get me business,
well,
but.
somehow, some way, whoever that realtor is, got his business.
Mhm.
So, and that may
He's
have been
supposed to
like,
be calling my boyfriend because he reached out to him and he's like, hey,
Wow.
saw a sign in the yard. Yeah, and
Yeah.
he's like, I'll call you soon. So
Yeah.
who knows what could happen? It could.
I'm
have
anxious to see
been-
what the follow-up is.
Me too.
so you know, hey, so, and again, the first thing in this class, I'm just gonna read this conversation right back to class.
Mhm.
First thing is to get it out of the way, right?
Yes.
So eat the frog, the guy's
Mhm.
like, hey, I'll call you. If he doesn't call, have your boyfriend call.
Yeah.
Have your boyfriend call. Just say, hey, so I know you said you were gonna call, but I don't wanna be sitting on this because we're still neighbors, man.
Mhm.
Like, we're still buddies, we're still friends. We just wanna know, did we do something wrong?
Mhm.
Like, I would say, like, that's what, I wanna
Yeah.
come from a place of how, I need to get better.
Yeah.
You know, there was one client, she didn't use me, and I was really confused.
Mhm.
Like, when she did not use me, and I was like, hey, what happened? She was like, dude, I don't know if you remember or not, but you were so busy and you double booked yourself on one of our showings. And I was like, I did. I double booked myself and I ended up being 20 minutes late to your appointment because I double booked and I had to finish up what I was doing to go to yours. And she goes, honestly, it made us feel not important
Oh.
because they were the ones I missed. So whoever I went to was more important than theirs.
Oh.
And so she said, she was like, just, straight up, that's why. And I was like, man, I know that I apologized to you a million times that day and probably for the next week, but I didn't take away, I was like, it's totally appropriate that you wouldn't use me. I was like, I can assure you that will never happen again. And since that has happened, because it happened to you, it has never happened to anyone else because that's how important you are to me.
Yeah.
And so I said, I don't blame you for using someone else. That would have hurt my feelings a lot.
Mhm.
I said, I am still glad that we're friends. I
Mhm.
just didn't know that I had ruined a working relationship with you.
Oh.
And so, and I told her that. And also then afterwards, she was just like, she's like, it's not that I don't want to use you. I couldn't take that risk. My wife and I couldn't take that risk. And I was like, girl, I get it. Like, that's totally fine.
Yeah.
I mean, still, I was like, oh my God,
I know.
I fucked up. But like, so for me, whenever stuff like that happens, I always remember, I'm like, okay, that was a failure on my part.
Mhm.
And that took away an income from my family.
I know, that's literally what I keep thinking, because
Yeah.
I'm like so stressing about that
Yeah.
right now, and I'm like, darn it, I messed up,
And it happens, again, you gotta forgive yourself in order to move
Mhm.
past it, but that might be your biggest, and he may just say something super superficial,
Yeah.
like stupid, like the guy said that he would just list it right away, that he could get it done, he's got all these systems and blah, blah,
Mhm.
blah. He talked so fast, I didn't know what to do, like,
Yeah.
okay, well, I mean, yeah, sure, well, I hope he does a good job, and we're still neighbors, so best of luck.
Mhm.
But, I just had a friend, really close friend of mine, he used his ex-wife. His ex-wife, they had she was out of the area, and so they're still friends, cause they have kids. So, but like, they're not his kids, but he raised them, you know? So my wife, again, I can assure you from what I told you already about how she responded to the inspection notice, how she responded to our friend using someone, because he originally used me and we were under agency contract. And then he went under contract with his ex-wife on a house. And I was like, whoa, what happened, dude? I was like, listen, man. And I texted him and I said, I've just found out that you're under agency contract and under contract for a home with another agent. At this point in time, I want to release you from your obligation to me because technically you are obligated to pay me. And I'm not gonna let that happen because we're still friends.
Right.
Right?
But, but at the same time, because we sit around a fire pit all the time.
Mhm.
You know, this guy, he knows my kids, he comes to my house.
Wow.
And this happened, he closed on his house the day before I closed on my new house. And I was like, bro, what? And he's like, I didn't mean to step on toes. She just brought this to me. And I said, yeah, but you told me that you wanted to wait. And so that's why I paused his MLS search.
Mhm.
I will never do that again.
Yeah.
Don't pause it. Unless they tell you to pause it, I just tell them, go ahead, you can get in there and you can do it. You can reactivate it whenever you're ready. And they'll never do it. But I'm just like, when he did that, I was like, here's the thing. He's giving his ex-wife an income that then goes to feed those kids
Mhm.
that he raised.
Mhm.
And so when I explained it that way to my wife, she didn't give a shit.
That's literally my boyfriend.
Your wife and I might get along.
Oh, yeah.
But I told her that.
He was so mad.
Yeah, well, and the thing was, is that like, she was like, well, what about our kids? I'm like, well, he didn't raise our kids. Our kids are gonna be way better than his kids. I'm like, so we're already winning. We're
Right.
winning the game of life.
Right.
One of their kids, I'm like, is probably gonna be a felon. The other one, is probably gonna get in
You're like, I'm probably gonna maybe see this one.
No, I was like, and so I'm like, our kids are awesome. So, and she's like, yeah, but we didn't get, I was like, yeah, but I've got better clients too. People that, that want to work with me, I want to work with them.
Yeah,
So at the end of the day, that's what matters. And we just need to, there's enough business out there for all of us. We just are, some agents are better than others and they shouldn't get the business that they got, like, his ex-wife, but that's fine. It's fine.
it's good stuff.
I don't care. I don't care. Anyway, all right, bye, everybody on Zoom.
I love it. That's good.
I realized that we're
They're my-
still recording, I think.
In my top 2 favorites.
I probably should stop.
Top 3, like it was.
How do I make it
I love it.
stop? And, okay.